Stage left, the audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. Rises and the players come out. Webs of lies spinning from their mouths. Start looking, listen for a little while. And you don't see them behind their smile. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. Another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. Program reality, double thing duality. Put upon the face of all mankind. Our numbers up and the dead for the time. Go along to get along in the time by the siren song. The flames are empty and the crypts are cracking open. The horde's upon you and you stand there frozen, waiting for the word. Stand in line and wait your turn. Don't follow the strings to find out who is pulling. Just drink your poison, keep on laughing and drooling, eating your own flesh. The master always knows what's best. Worldwide genocide. The overlords of hungry parasites. Report the finger and the eagles fly. Raining fire, children die. Starving plague, paralyzed. Pile of bodies rotten, covered in fire. But no one wants to talk about it. It's safer not to talk about it. I cut my strings, no more bowing to the master. I tried to run, but they only came faster. Now I stand my ground. I ain't backing down. Silver bullets in my pistol, in my holster. My will is strengthened and my confidence is bolstered. Don't test my resolve. Don't test my resolve. Enter madman, stage left. The audience rises and holds their breath. They let the vampires into their house, pretend they don't see when the teeth come out. Put a band-aid on their throat. No one wants to rock the boat, and no one wants to talk about it. You're not supposed to talk about it. rises and the players come out. Webs of light spinning from their mouths. Start looking, listen for a little while. And you don't see them behind their smile. Pay no attention to the men behind the curtain. Just look away when you see the blood spurting down to a steady drip. I promise to leave you a little bit. I'll be back for another drink tomorrow. I love the taste of your terror and your sorrow bathing in your blood. It's never enough. Program.
There we are. Hello and welcome to the Iron Mountain Hour. It is Sunday, August the 14th, 2022. My name is Cliff Beck. I'm joined by Dustin and Johnathan, and we're here in Carter County. Go ahead and hit that like button on this video, help other people find it. Share this. I can't wear that anymore because I'm afraid you can't hear me. But yeah, we got coming in from Carter County here in the middle of the Iron Mountain. We're going to talk Star Wars tonight. We've been wanting to do this for a while, and I'm glad to be able to finally do it. Sorry about the delays on the video there on the audio. Hopefully we'll have that, be able to trim that up and fix it for the replay. But for those of you who are joining us live, Dalton and Buddy are already in here. Good to see you guys too. Appreciate it. We've got Buddy's using his Darth Maul avatar for his chat, so that's awesome. Tim versus everyone says the theme is still going. Thank you, Tim versus everyone. There we are. Now you might be able to hear me over the music. Sorry about that. I'm having a little more fun this time, but we can still tie it to the real world in a lot of ways. So I thought we'd get into Star Wars and stuff. So we've got Johnathan with us because Johnathan probably knows more about Star Wars than anyone I know. And I grew up on Star Wars. It has a very special place in my heart. I think when I was probably 4 or 5 years old, before I started kindergarten, I came across that, I can't remember the name, something Ewok Adventure, and it had a little blonde girl in it, and she got trapped on Endor's moon, and gosh, I can't remember the title.
I can't either.
But anyway, that was my introduction to Star Wars, and I played that videotape so much that I tried to take it to school for like a show and tell day one day in first grade, and in the middle of watching it, it just crapped out and wouldn't play anymore. Yeah, and everybody in the class was super disappointed because they were like, "Whoa, that was cool! I'd never seen that." And yeah, so that was my introduction to Star Wars. And then growing up, we had the VHS of the original trilogy and played those until they wore out too. So
that was always the problem with VHS. Eventually, you're like, you gamble after it starts getting old. You play, you're like, is it going to eat it? Is it going to eat it?
I had a recorded version from TV if the commercials cut out.
Oh, nice.
And I grew up with those and watched those over and over the years, and I still have them, and they still work.
Wow.
Surprisingly. So.
I do have a VCR over here, and I've had a couple of tube TVs down here in this studio room that have blown up on me since I had them in here. So I've got one television left that I can hook a VCR to, but it's an older flat screen as far as still having that original 90s kind of look, not having super high definition screen. And but there's something about the tube TV when you watch those VHS movies that
because I know on like old video games, like when you play like say an original PlayStation game on a HD monitor or TV, it looks like shit.
Yeah.
But if you actually look at a comparison from a CRT TV to a digital TV, you can actually see it's like, okay, it actually looks better on the old TV, how the tubes and stuff worked.
Well,
I have it's like 13-inch TV that I've had since I was a kid, and I still, play video games on it. It just looks better because if I play on my high def TV, like you said, it just blows up. I mean, it's like too perfect. This blocks are.
Yeah, because the pixels are not blurred.
It doesn't distort them to where it just there's some magic that happens in the CRTs.
I've also heard you can't play Duck Hunt on a flat screen TV, that it won't capture correctly because
the light guns won't work.
Yeah. So you do have to have a TV for that.
Of it then, I guess. Yeah.
I think it might be the rate of the refresh rate on it, or something. Maybe I'm not right about that, but I heard something about that.
Yeah, it could. I'm not, like I said, I'm not 100% sure on it either.
Well, either way, it's it's definitely, the tube TVs are definitely cool to have if you have one that works. I've like I said, ran out of all the ones that I had, and I've got a little, like the small, probably 19-inch flat screen over here that doesn't even have an HDMI input, so it's low enough resolution to where I can hook the Super Nintendo up to it. If, say we want to play Zombies Ate My Neighbors after the show, so that's pretty cool. I don't have anything to hook my Atari 2600 up into anymore. Dalton says, I don't know about you guys, but the weather here in Pennsylvania went from hot as hell to lower 70s every day, and very nice, and enjoyed it. Yeah, it's been pretty warm here. It's been low 90s and humid and rained about every day. That's been taking it down though, but there's so much humidity from all the rain. You definitely can see that we live in a rainforest over the last couple weeks. What was it you were saying, Dustin? That was like how much compared to the Amazon or whatever?
We actually are almost like the same amount per year.
Yeah.
It's very similar. Except it's like, hey, we actually get almost as much as like they do in like Washington State, except for small pockets,
right,
kind of like of the Pacific Northwest where it rains all the time. It's like, yeah, we're the same here.
Well, we were also talking about how Roan Mountain is, the same, probably higher than Denver actually, isn't it? Because Denver's a mile-high city.
Denver's a mile high. If you go to that very, very top bald, it's like 6,400 feet, so it's over a mile.
Yeah, so the town of Roan Mountain is probably roughly the same, probably roughly a mile high.
No, not quite.
Not really.
Because you go, to get up to Carver's Gap, you do have quite a bit of elevation because you go like 15 more minutes up the hill.
That's true, yeah. Yeah, you drive for a while before you get to it, yeah. But yeah,
But still, I'd say it's probably in the well into the high 4,000 range.
Oh, okay, that much of a difference. Yeah, I was kind of surprised that Buckner's Gap and Sam's Gap were only about 4,000 feet, as high as they seem when you're up there. But yeah, it's nice to have you with us. I'm glad you're having some good weather there, Dalton, up in PA.
Today haven't been too bad.
Oh, I had a nice day today, man. I mowed and burned some wood out in some old trash wood out in the backyard and
Got
stuff.
some steaks today.
Yeah, awesome.
Good day.
I had some burgers yesterday grilled out, and so if you remember last Wednesday, if you were with us, we talked about Tennessee's War of the Roses in 1886, which was when two brothers ran for governor against one another. Alfred Taylor, they're both from Carter County. Alfred Taylor was the Republican nominee, and his brother Robert Taylor was the Democrat nominee. And they had been divided from the time they were children because their parents, their mother was a Democrat and their father was a Whig. So they kind of grew up fighting over politics and continued on into the governor's race. Well, so in quite a serendipitous occurrence here, I was given this for my birthday by my mother. She did not see the show on Wednesday where we discussed the War of the Roses, and she gave me this old reprint that her mother had of an 1886 commemoration of this campaign. It was drawn by one of the brothers, Nat W. Taylor, of Alfred and Robert, and there's also a quote from it which I want to read to you because it describes the Watauga River where we are here in Carter County, and I thought this was a really good little bit here that was printed on this poster. It said, the following is a good description of the old home and scenery by Landon C. Haynes, uncle of the candidates. As a banquet in honor of members of the bar and bench during a session of the Supreme Court at Jackson, Tennessee some years ago, General N.B. Forrest, you probably have heard that name before, during the evening arose and said, Gentlemen, I propose the health of the eloquent gentleman from East Tennessee, naming L.C. Haynes, a country sometimes called the God-forsaken. Mr. Haynes responded as follows. Mr. Chairman and gentlemen, I plead guilty to the soft impeachment. I was born in East Tennessee on the banks of the Watauga, which in the Indian vernacular means beautiful river, and beautiful river it is. I have stood upon its banks in my childhood and looked down through its glassy waters and have seen a heaven below, and then looked up and beheld heaven above reflecting like two mirrors, each in the other, its moons and planets and trembling stars. Away from its banks of rock and cliff, hemlock and laurel, pine and cedar stretches a veil as back to the distant mountains, as beautiful and exquisite as any in Italy or Switzerland. There stand the great Unaka, the great Rhone, the great Black, and the great Smoky Mountains, among the loftiest in America, on whose summits the clouds gather of their own accord, even on the brightest day. There I have seen the great spirit of the storm after noontide go and take his evening nap in his pavilion of darkness and clouds. I have then seen him aroused at midnight as a giant refreshed by slumber, and cover the heavens with a gloom and darkness. Have seen him wake the tempest, let loose the red lightning that ran along the mountaintops for 1,000 miles, swifter than an eagle's flight in heaven. Then I have seen them stand up and dance like angels of light in the clouds to the music that grand organ of nature, whose keys seem to have been touched by the fingers of the divinity in the hall of eternity, that responded in the notes of thunder, resounding through the universe. Then I have seen the darkness drift away beyond the horizon, and the moon get up from her saffron bed like a queen, put on her robes of night, and come forth from her palace in the sun, and stand on tiptoe on the misty mountain top, while the night fled before her glorious face to his bedchamber at the pole, and she lighted the green vale and beautiful river where I was born and played in childhood, with a smile of sunshine. O beautiful land of the mountains, with thy sun-painted cliffs, how can I ever forget thee? So I thought that was really cool. So thanks for that, Mom. We're going to put that on the studio here. That'd be part of it'll go well with our Capewell Horseshoe Company print that we have up here behind me. So I just wanted to share that with y'all. I thought it was a really, really pretty description of the place where I grew up too. So hopefully
the stream is still working because I'm
Dustin is buffering. Let's see what we got here. If I got anything at all.
like I'm dead right now. I've even closed the app completely out.
This says we're live. Really pretty description. Guess we're going good. So must be a you problem there. I don't know. That's weird because it's on the same internet. So hopefully everybody out there can see us. Dalton says a great grandfather of mine was a northern soldier in the Civil War, and apparently while crossing a creek on horseback, his gun fell out of his holster. Wow.
Okay, it came back.
Yes, so thank you for that, Dalton. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that this area actually, even though Tennessee did secede with the Confederacy, this area did not want to secede, and they actually were. There was not a lot of slave owners in this area, so there wasn't really any popular support for joining on account of that. But I think generally speaking, out in the West, they did have a lot of that going on out towards Memphis and Nashville. Dalton says he went back for his gun and was surrounded by Confederates and taken to Andersonville Prison in Georgia and was there for 6 months, but he survived the ordeal. Well, lucky for you, he did, Dalton. Lucky you. Well, yeah, so we talk Star Wars here, and like to get back into that a little bit, I kind of wanted to look at just some of the lore of Star Wars that maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with, and some of the mythology that it's based on, and some of just our favorite parts of Star Wars. And then I also want to get into like some of the real world allegories that George Lucas may have been trying to tell, or the way, at least the way I perceive it, and we can talk about. Johnathan, I think, probably has a better idea of how Lucas actually intended this stuff to be viewed, so we can kind of see how close to what he said that some of my ideas are. So what's your favorite Star Wars movie?
Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
I think. But it changes though, because sometimes I prefer Return to Jedi, because those two are they were just a big part of my childhood, and even sometimes like it will go back to New Hope. So it just really depends on the mood. But I think overall the story of Empire Strikes Back was always, it just had a darker tone to it, and it was directed by Irving Kershner, and it just had a different feel to it, so.
And I guess as a childhood, just that on the opening Hoth scene, I've always been fascinated.
It has so many memorable moments.
The AT-ATs they were just neat machines.
Well,
That was
and
always fascinating.
Luke getting trapped in the cave and cutting off the monster's arm, and that part sticks with you too.
Tauntauns.
Yeah, they have to, and then that's Han has to stick him in the guts of the tauntaun and to stay warm till they get found. Yeah, that stuff sticks with you, man. I mean, there's a lot of scenes in that movie, and I think a lot of people hate on, I guess, Return of the Jedi because maybe the Ewoks and things are some that a lot of
people talk online about?
Yeah, well, there's
like the Ewoks.
apparently the Ewoks were supposed to be like a planet of Wookiees instead, but they didn't have the budget at the time to do that, so they just got little people and had a planet full of Ewoks instead. So
With their cold, dead little eyes that didn't blink.
yeah, but being a kid though,
I liked the Ewoks.
I loved it. Like
I don't know. I still remember from childhood. For some reason, I had a reoccurring nightmare that they were like Ewoks and they were actually like evil.
Well, I mean, they were going to eat Han and Leia and Luke until C-3PO, till they thought he was a god, and that's kind of...
Yeah, I think that was probably, it may have been something like that, because they kept trying to hunt me and stuff. I was just like, yeah, maybe it's just deep-rooted from that nightmare I kept having as a kid and my hatred towards them, but...
Well, that part of the movie harkens back to the story of the man who would be king, which is one of those archetypal stories that we talked about before. Whereas C-3PO pretends to be a god to get him out of the jam, well, he kind of does, and then Luke helps him. But that's kind of like that old story that has kind of been around as long as time itself. Are there any other ones that come to mind when we think of stuff like that in Star Wars?
I don't know too deeply about those, the different stories that were used, but before Star Wars had like a root in mythology, it wasn't really that much of a cohesive story. It went through several revisions before George Lucas incorporated Joseph Campbell's hero's journey story into it. And I think that's what really made it so successful and made it hold up till to this day.
Well, the hero's journey is a classic one, and a lot of people had that critique of the newer trilogy, the sequel trilogy, that it kind of abandoned the hero's journey for the main character, Rey. What were you saying about that, Dustin?
I guess because she has no character arc. She's just like, she's there, and then all of a sudden she's like, I'm the best. There's no growth in her character. Yeah. There's no flaw. She works through nothing she struggles with to become a better person. She's just like, yeah, I'm automatically good.
Yeah, I kind of picked up on that too, and it was kind of hard. I'll be honest,
you can't
man.
resonate with that. You're like, because you're not. It's like you're not growing at all. You're just like, oh, everything you hit, you flawlessly go through it. You beat all your masters with no effort. It's like there's no.
Well, I mean, the first time she picked up a lightsaber, she's like a match for Kylo Ren, who's like this badass who's supposed to be the leader of the Knights of Ren, who never show up in the movie. I don't think they do anyway, but
there's like a flashback to him.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, but I was excited to see when we saw The Force Awakens. I went and saw it in the theater. But I was excited to see that. It looks like Tim versus everyone has made it to join us. So Tim had some biker stuff to do here, so...
I don't ride motorcycles. I just play music for him.
So he made it. And looks like he's going to be Mando.
Forgot about those. Alright.
Alright. I'll go back to Boba Fett for a minute. Boba Fett doesn't have many lines, so I feel like, I shouldn't talk too much. And in the original trilogy, I always wanted to hear more from Boba Fett, because he was such an intriguing character, because he was so mysterious to me. What do you think with I would call it almost the fetishization of the Boba Fett character over the last, 20 years. He's become kind of one of people's favorite characters, and he's not even really that much in the movies. What do you think that comes from?
I think it's just, being mysterious and just...
Trade you golf, I can breathe on that one.
Just give us the imagination a lot of room for badassery,
And
Have you seen the Boba Fett series?
No, I watched The Mandalorian, and I saw Boba Fett in that, but I didn't watch the Book of Boba Fett.
Yeah, there was a lot of mixed... I think people had mixed feelings on Boba Fett series. I liked it overall pretty good. It had some really cool episodes in it. There were some other things, not so much, but... I think the new character that he's become, I enjoyed watching it. I thought it was pretty good.
Did you read the Bounty Hunter saga back in the day? That has like a series of books. It was just the Bounty Hunters by any chance?
I was talking to him about that.
I don't read.
I know you're talking about it.
Yeah, I don't read. My brother Daniel read all of them, and he was so really happy one night when he found out that something happened when Boba Fett went in the Sarlacc pit and a grenade blew him out. And he was just so happy Boba Fett didn't die.
Yeah,
Because that was his favorite character.
yeah. That's I read the same one. It was Tales of the Bounty Hunter. It was a novel, and it had all the bounty hunters who were in the room when Vader is. I think it's in Empire Strikes Back when he's basically telling them that he wants Solo brought to him, and. There's like the robot bounty hunter. He has a story, and Bask, the lizard,
The guy
the
that
boss.
had the white wrapping around him. I don't remember.
Yeah,
The guy
yeah.
that saved Boba Fett, but I can't remember his
I
name.
forget his name too.
Yeah, that was like the one that I looked up to or something.
Dingo,
Dengar.
Dengar. Yeah.
Bosk.
Yeah, Bosk was the lizard one, wasn't he?
I liked him.
Drew up to you.
What was the name of the really skinny robot? It was
IG-88.
basically
Yeah.
IG-88. Yeah, I remember he was a pain in the ass on Shadows of the Empire.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that
Yeah.
Nintendo 64 game, is that what
Yeah.
it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was tough on that.
That was
It's a good game, man.
It was broken as hell, but it was a good game.
Yeah.
You could find like places where you could like clip into the wall, and you could like just use your jetpack to ram your head
Yeah,
into
it's
it.
glitchy.
These three things.
Dalton says Tim, the greatest bounty hunter in Carter County, maybe even Tennessee.
I have been known to hunt a bounty or two. Oh wait, that's booty.
I can't see my mouse pointer with that helmet on. It's too dark. How do you think they see? And do you think there's is there a projection inside there in the Mandalorian combat armor, or is it just are they just really good at looking through a little slit?
You know,
I think there's probably a heads-up display in there.
yeah,
or
I
something.
was going to say, I wonder if there's a HUD, but yeah, it never indicates anything like that, you know.
Well, I mean, on Boba Fett's helmet, the thing is a targeting system.
That's true,
but-
yeah. But that is like a little HUD that comes.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
The heads up comes down in front of his eye. That's right. Yeah, that's what this thing right here is. Yeah.
There'd have to be some sort of. I mean, well, I guess.
There'd have to be cameras because it's so. I mean, almost like a VR screen
Yeah.
is what I would imagine would be in there.
Yeah, that's kind of funny because some of the technology is. I mean, you would think that it looks like it's more advanced technology, but really, like all the military stuff is kind of like World War II stuff, just adapted to space, and kind of the technology is kind of kept primitive compared to even what we have now, except for the fact that they can travel at warp speed or whatever, or light speed or whatever, however fast it is they're
You
going
need
up.
to tell me if an X-wing existed in real life, it wouldn't have analog buttons that go bloop, bloop, click, click, click.
Yeah, and notice all the computers are just flashing lights, especially on like the Death Star and stuff. But I think it's like imagining if maybe World War II was in space, kind of, and
Yeah, there's actually George Lucas used footage from World War II films copied some of the dogfights in the older films in the first Star Wars.
Okay.
So.
yeah, that's one of the all-time movie moments for me too. Is of course the dogfight at the beginning of or at the end of Episode 4. With Luke taking, foregoing the targeting computer and using the Force to take down the Death Star. And I went to when the prequels came out. I went to a church that the youth group with. Our youth pastor in that group was he was really big into Star Wars too. And I had never really thought about it before, but he took us to Star Wars and he was like, this is, this means this is an allegory for God basically, and the Force is God, and this and that. And I think they even did there was an episode of that 70s show where Eric Foreman, he was really big into Star Wars, and his pastor taught him, the same thing. So I thought that was kind of funny that that happened enough over the United States that they kind of memorialized it in that 70s show as, as something that happened as representative of 70s culture, late 70s culture. What do you reckon Lucas was going for when he wrote that? I mean, what's the allegory to real life, would you say?
I think it's tied to some kind of like Eastern religion, but I can't remember what it's called. But there was a religion that was very similar to the concept of the Force. Yeah, I can't recall the name of
The
it.
Tao, probably. Way of the Tao, TOE.
Yeah.
So it's supposed to be what flow. Even like when you hear Obi-Wan start talking about how it flows in and out, it really sounds like he's like starting to break into like an Alan Watts YouTube video with that.
Talking about the ether
Yeah, something. Probably the way of the Tao. It's like chi and all that stuff. I don't know if that's real.
And speaking of Aether, we got the guys from Aether Weaver with us tonight. Dustin and Johnathan do
Double rainbow.
That's
You want to get helmets next time?
yeah, y'all don't do that when you do your next show.
We'll do this and just play Daft Punk covers.
That's fine.
Yeah, we actually have a new album coming up probably next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Awesome. So that's AETHERWEAVER. If you want to check those guys out there, you guys are on Instagram with that, and we're
YouTube. We have a YouTube channel.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And
Anywhere you want your streaming pleasure, we've got it.
and if you like melodic death metal, these guys are also the members of Decade of Deceit, bass and guitar and vocals here for Decade of Deceit. Really great stuff there. They're on
Rainbow.
Spotify and they're on YouTube. They've got some cool videos on there, and I have their album on my phone on my Spotify, which I listen to from time to time. And we had Johnathan on here last time. We were talking about Zechariah Stitchin. There we go. And a lot of people make fun of Biden for how he slips up on his talking, but I'm telling you, if you talked as much as he does, I guarantee you'd make a lot of mistakes too. I don't like to make, to take up for Biden any, but I when I watch myself on the podcast, I slip up a lot and say
Except
the
you
wrong
know
thing.
not to read the parts on your teleprompter that you're not.
Well,
supposed
that's
to.
true. I don't have anybody putting it on a screen for me too, so I guess if you put it on a screen for me, I'd probably be a lot better than it.
He's literally a Ron Burgundy type at this point. So. Don't go shooting yourself down and comparing yourself to Biden. I
No,
have
I'm-
to step in a little bit.
Oh well, I'm just saying it.
I'm all about making fun of me, myself, and everybody else, but don't go comparing
Well,
yourself to him. Yeah.
I like to make fun of Biden too, but I like to, there's plenty of things I could hit him for without some. Of course, now he had the one thing where he said America can be summed up in one word, and then he went, "I sure regret it, I was like, did that just really happen? Was that real life? Okay, so maybe I'm not quite that bad, but
Keep going.
It's easy to.
You could be.
Yeah, that's right. If I go and whore myself out for 40 more years, maybe I could be as bad as Joe Biden.
It is my thinking helmet.
Sean says he missed something here. He's tuning in late. We're talking Star Wars tonight, Sean, and Dustin seems to be really enjoying his helmet, he says, and Dalton says it helps him think. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad
Keeps
you're
my
with us
brain
there,
in.
Sean. Well, y'all in the chat, what's your favorite Star Wars movie? Who's your favorite Star Wars character? I always appreciated Han Solo, man. Like my brother was kind of the Luke guy, and I was the Han Solo guy, and we watched it a lot, and I always identified with kind of the attitude of Han. He appealed to me, the kind of the quips and one-liners. I like that kind of stuff, and as I grow up, remember I shared the meme last week of. Basically, Han is, he hates the Empire, he smuggles, and he open carries, so you kind of identify with him as the space cowboy and cap kind of guy, so I always liked him. But
So I guess if we're sticking with the first three, the only character I'm left with is one of those characters. 'Cause I don't really think I'm just a musician.
what's that? What's the doctor's name from that gets his arm cut off? The Wanted Man and the
Evian.
Yeah. And then he showed back up in Rogue One, which I thought was, I don't know if I want to say it's underrated because I don't really know how other people reacted to it, but it seems to be underappreciated to me. I really liked it.
Yeah, I think it was solid, and it wasn't a movie that was needed, but I thought it was very well done.
I liked it.
Portrayed,
I liked all the characters in it, and I loved
little
getting
cameos that were in it and everything. It was pretty good.
But I liked the
And
characters.
especially Vader.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, man.
That was the icing on the cake,
That scene where he's chasing them through the hallway and just shredding the rebels as they're taking the Death Star plans and passing them off. That.
Yeah, because we've never seen Vader that badass before, and it'd be cool to just have a movie of that.
Yeah.
But we kind of see some of that in Obi-Wan, like a little more Vader of that style. So that was one of the more redeeming things of that show, I think. But,
If they could have got correlation on the correct suit.
well, his suit changes in like every movie, everything that is in. It seems like
But it's like they had like a
mix.
mishmash of like every suit into one.
Right,
Instead of actually being to where it should have been.
Yeah, it was the same way for Rogue One. How he had, like in the New Hope, his cape, like he has some kind of like inside cape that comes over his shoulder pads or whatever. But later on, like they put those underneath the armor, but it's like in Rogue One, they went back to the like later on style of the armor, you know. So it's kind of all over the place, but I think it just looks better though, you know, with that style.
Have you seen any of the fan made Vader and Obi-Wan fight scenes where they redid this?
Yeah.
Oh man, some of that stuff.
Really good one.
Yeah, they did great on those. Some of those things. If I'd have thought of that, this is the first time I thought of it in a long time, I would have had that ready because we could have watched that without having to worry about copyrights and stuff. But it's a really badass scene if you go on and look up. I'd say fan made Vader versus Obi-Wan or something like that. You'd be able to find it on YouTube. But it's several minutes long fight scene that just fans of Star Wars made. And what did you? Let's see. Vacant Josh says Lando is his favorite for sure. A smooth pimp who looks great in a cape. And Sean says the first movie's his favorite. Yeah, I think I'm kind of with you, Jonathan. My first changes from time to time. It usually is Return of the Jedi because I love the Ewoks. I love the speederback chases. I love Luke saving Vader at the end. You know, and.
Yeah, I recently watched the ILM documentary on Disney, which was really, really well done. And they kind of go through all of the first three Star Wars movies. And Return of the Jedi had the most effects out of all of them because they had to work like extra hard to get up. But by that time, they had matured as well, you know, and kind of figured out a lot of things. And they just went over the top with it. And I guess now that that I know that and think about it, there are a lot more things like flashy things going on in that movie compared to the others.
I actually read that the newest movies, a lot of people were saying something about all the CGI, or maybe I can't remember if it was the prequels or the newer ones, but they said that there are actually more models used in them than there were the original trilogy altogether, and more miniatures and stuff. So even though they did have a lot of computer assistance, that they actually did use a lot of models and miniatures in those too. But it's kind of Industrial Lights and Magic is who did the effects on them. They've done other space movies and stuff, haven't they?
Oh yeah, Steven Spielberg used them a lot for his movies, and they kind of got contracted out to other filmmakers, and so I mean they've really been involved in most of the movies that we grew up with if they had special effects in it.
Well, what did you think? Now personally, I liked the prequels. A lot of people feels like we're hating on them unfairly. I think the first movie, or the first prequel, episode 1 of The Phantom Menace, it was a little, it was under par, but I think they were trying to introduce Star Wars to a new generation and kind of went too far towards that maybe, but I think the story on it was solid. We also get introduced to the characters of Qui-Gon and young Obi-Wan in there, and you kind of see the relationship between them and how they discover Anakin, who goes on to become Darth Vader. So you got really important story points going on in there, but I think some of the people just maybe got too, the Jar Jar Binks was too much maybe, and what was your feeling on it?
Sith Lord Jar Jar.
Yeah.
You seen that?
yeah. No, I thought about that too. Yeah.
They bring in some of the animated series and the Clone Wars series into some of the scenes that he's in to support it too.
Yeah.
Including the part where he dresses up as a Sith, and they actually believe he's one of them. And they're like, why would they believe that was a Sith unless he actually was in real life? So,
Right. Yeah. It's kind of convincing. Yeah.
Well, and Jar Jar comes onto the scene.
Yeah.
That's how he would. He comes onto the scene about the time that Darth Maul dies. Right. That's about when he kind of comes into the story. And
is it now like there's always two Sith?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. I like the prequels. Like I never had a problem with them. I was just happy to get more Star Wars at the time. But I had friends that weren't really happy with it, with the way it turned out. And I think now that's kind of changed a little bit as time has went on. They kind of see the sequels now, and they look back and like, man, if they was only as good as the prequels. Like I think it's just people's minds change over time, you know. But at the time, I enjoyed them. Like, I was just happy to get into Star Wars.
I think they've aged well, and I think that a lot of people didn't like the overuse of the CGI or whatever. But
The commitment was there for a while. We'll give him 44 minutes.
I didn't want to be singled out, so.
to me, one of the
pressing on my nose and it's just
oh yeah,
my head hurt.
that looked uncomfortable. Your nose was a little mushed in.
Yeah.
There.
Oh, we need to wire these things up to where they work with the headset, and then you can wear it every week.
Okay, if I mean, yeah,
Little headphones.
little alteration, it can make it work.
And then whenever you just get bored, you would just look over there, you'd be like banging your head, be like, he's listening to metal.
It's like,
Yeah, have you listened to that band Iaptus or something like that? It's IAPTES.
It's just like,
Yeah. Yeah, that must be what it is. I just discovered them the other day. It's pretty cool.
I probably have it. Sounds familiar.
I'd never heard them before, and they popped up on my Spotify, and I checked
I
them
listen
out.
to so much stuff all the
Yeah,
time.
they're-
So yeah,
Kind of mostly instrumental, like death metal, but I mean, it has vocals, but it's just a lot of instrumental stuff. But
as it should be.
and it's like kind of pagan imagery, kind of Mother Earth kind of stuff, but it's done in a cool way.
You
That
think we're
sounds
at a
more
level
familiar.
now? Go ahead, sorry.
I was like, that sounds more familiar now when you said their subject matter. I'm pretty sure I know of them.
Do you think we're at a level now to where like devil stuff and pagan-y stuff and like devil stars and stuff is so mainstream? I really think I could probably put out a more effective Christian metal album at this point if I actually stuck to the original book and stuff and like made real. Because like Satan stars aren't scary anymore. You can go to like
No.
Walmart and buy pentagrams and earring section and stuff. It's like all that stuff is so just there. I almost feel like if you went the other direction with it, it would be more controversial at this point.
Yeah,
Catholic metal. You have to like have mass, but don't even do it like the way Ghost does it. Be like, no, you sit down and quit being evil. We're doing this for real. Like actually have mass, but
well, it's like I can't remember if we talked about this on the show or if it was after the show, but where Insane Clown Posse came out several years ago and was like, it was all a ruse. We were leading people to Jesus. You know, we're Christians and we were helping lost souls to heaven and stuff. And that's what all the juggalos are supposed to be like. Oh,
they're a secret Christian cult.
Yeah.
Disguising themselves with makeup.
yeah. So that kind of caught some people off guard, but I never really followed Insane Clown Posse close enough to know anything about that one way or the other, but
I know more juggalos than I think I know enough of them to where I don't know why I know that many. To where I'm like, was I supposed to be a juggalo? Did I miss my group? I could have worn face paint every day and got away with it.
did you ever see that show Workaholics where they go to the Juggalo gathering? That's pretty good, man. Workaholics is a pretty good MTV show, or it's Comedy Central show. But I've not seen a lot of like Rebels. You got the Rebel shirt on. I've not seen Rebels. I've not seen.
How about Clone Wars?
I watched like the first season of Clone Wars, and I've never got around to finishing it. It kind of seemed like it was so long that
It got way better as it progressed.
Yeah.
You know, the CG got better, the stories got better, and it had some really good story arcs in it. So I highly recommend.
I've heard it's really good.
That is probably one of the best.
And the second movie from the second prequel movie, or episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Speaking of clones, tell us a little bit about Order 66 in there and what that is, because I've got a little theory on that. If you want,
Oh, yeah.
refresh our memory on what that is.
It's basically just like it's like implanted in the clones. Later on in the Clone Wars, they kind of elaborate on that. You know, it's like actually a chip that's in their skull, and it's just hard programmed into their brains. So, yeah, it's like kind of like the opposite of a failsafe, I guess. You know, just a program that's triggered to take out the Jedi. So.
Yeah,
That sounds kind of familiar to some of our one video a few weeks ago.
yeah, and that's
With our
tell us about that, and then I'll tell you what I was thinking of.
which one was it? Is it Mockingbird or MK Ultra?
That would be MK Ultra,
Okay, yeah. Feels like it
or
was,
the continuation of it, whatever they're calling it now, that it's more advanced.
yeah. So it feels like, like they were implanting subliminal things to make people want to do something after something's triggered.
I don't know, maybe like stab someone to death for taking their bubble gum. You know,
Just the normal thing.
you know.
Well, I was thinking, for those who don't remember or haven't seen, in the episode 2, we find out, Obi-Wan finds out that someone has built a clone army that it was one of the Jedi who's gone missing, Cypher DS or something like that. He was building, he had a clone army manufactured for him or grown for him to help the Republic, supposedly. But what he didn't know is that they had been set up basically by Emperor or then Senator Palpatine, who was Darth Sidious, and that this army was actually implanted with a chip, as Johnathan said, to be turned on to kill all the Jedi. And it's kind of like a whole civilization or a whole society. They live all on one planet together and eat together and have a culture and everything. And they're all clones of Jango Fett. And
I wonder if that's also another thing to not go with GMOs, since they're all genetically modified, and see what that got them.
yeah.
Might just be.
Well, we talked about
Random
false
thinking.
flags last week, and I think that's one of the key moments of the prequels, is basically that there's a couple of false flags in it. One, that the Trade Federation was working for the Emperor, or the guy who would become Emperor, Palpatine, the whole time, and basically he set up the excuse to take power. And not only that, he was elected by the Senate there to be the one in power. So it's
It knows how to use or to give away emergency powers to the Emperor Chancellor at the time.
Yeah.
You know,
Sounds
kind of similar,
familiar.
to what's going on now.
With a current event. But
And I feel like there was a lot set up as far as, okay, this is what that movie always said to me, because I look at 9/11 as one of the greatest FFs ever perpetrated, and I think that the whole point of that was to set up stuff like the Patriot Act and the security state, and they needed the right wing to be supportive of that and set it up, right? Because the left was against, back then the left was against surveillance. They were against against suppressing journalists. They were against being strip searched at the airport and things like that. Now it's kind of like we've gotten all used to that, right? So they basically kind of used the right to set that up and support that because we had been attacked. And then the left was against all that stuff now, but now that the left is kind of in power, they have access to all that stuff. They're not getting rid of it. And that kind of reminds me of how they use this event of the war on the planet of Naboo in order to give more power to, which at that time was the Galactic Republic, or then it would basically turn into the first Galactic Empire when the dictatorial power went to Emperor Palpatine, when he fooled everybody into voting for him to give him all this power. And it kind of seemed to me like an allegory of what happened at the Bush administration, much like the original 3 movies seemed like an analog from the Nazis in World War II and the rise of the Third Reich being compared to the rise of the Empire.
Yeah, it's kind of the use of Hegelian dialectics, and it's in Star Wars, and we see it in real life. So I mean, it parallels each other,
But I was not seeing any of that in the sequel movies, the newest ones.
Right? Yeah, they didn't really implant that in those movies.
It's almost like they were just trying to
hard
please
on
everybody.
on the Skywalker arc, because there wasn't a cohesive story to begin with. They just, they didn't really have an arc to go by. They just well, let's just do this first movie and then we'll kind of make it up as we go along.
Yeah.
And then we saw how that turned out. So.
And I watched all of them in the theater, I think, but or no, I didn't either. I watched the first 2 in the theater, and then the last one I was like,
it's like, no.
I avoided watching it for a long time. Actually, I don't know why exactly, but I had hopes after I saw The Force Awakens because I liked some of the characters they made. I liked the character of Finn and Poe Dameron. Those were cool characters. Rey seemed like she could go somewhere, but like Dustin said, she kind of started off. I mean, it was in that movie. She had that big epic battle with Kylo Ren, who, you know, is supposed to be like one of the top men in the whole, you know, First Order, and you know, a girl who's never picked up a lightsaber before. I know she's got the Force or whatever, but she's
she's like just discovering the Force, doesn't know how to control her to use it.
It's
and,
like,
you know, puts up a fight with Kylo. So
it's like, for God's sake, when Luke first sees a lightsaber, he sticks it at his eye like that.
Yeah, now Luke did have to go through that character arc. He couldn't even fight the remote, you know,
Yeah,
when he
the
started.
little bot,
And
whatever
he's-
that bot was.
And he went on to be the most powerful Jedi, you know, to bring balance to the Force.
right, yeah. But I mean, I guess you think about it, he just like visited Yoda in the swamp, at Dagobah, and trained. But I mean, it doesn't elaborate on how long that was.
Yeah.
Because like when he left there, he wasn't. Yoda said he wasn't ready. You know.
It seems like it was a pretty short time, though, because there wasn't the events that were going on with the other characters. At that time, they were, they were in danger. Where were they? Because Luke had to go back
Cloud
and
City.
rescue them. Yeah, that's right. Vader had captured Cloud City and had imprisoned them there. So, yeah, so Luke basically, it didn't seem like too long, but at least he did have to go and train with somebody else and fail at several things and then learn his lessons and improve. So that's always more rewarding for a character to me, I think, for most people. But
I think we have a writing problem in all mediums because like people think it's unique to like Star Wars, but I think it's like they're focused on Star Wars because they like Star Wars so much. But if you take and it's like any series that's trying to make a difference, make shitty characters. Like for example, like The Legend of Korra, the second installment of Avatar, was basically this had the same problem that the girl from the new Star Wars movies did. Like they made her so unrelatable that nobody liked the character because everybody like the most relatable thing you can have is struggle. And when you make a lead character that literally never has to struggle, it's like that's the most unrelatable character you can make.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's a good way to
you
put
want to see
that.
somebody carry their bumps and stuff before they you know, like earn that payoff at the end.
Yeah.
And like Luke gets his hand chopped off the first time he fights Vader. And the very first time she fights him, she like takes his lightsaber away from him or whatever. That's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like it cheapens it. Like it's like they tried to make the characters strong and like so over the top because I guess because they're female or something.
Yeah.
But and like if they would have done like the way Zootopia did it and made the character unbelievably weak but still accomplished, it's like that's a much more believable storyline.
Yeah, because sometimes things just fall in your favor, even if you're not ready for it. And I've experienced that before. You know, just kind of the cards fall. You know, you just get a good hand somehow, and things work out. But that's not like the. I don't know. For that character, it kind of seems like everything kind of happens for her. As she goes, yeah, I was fixing to read that. I was kind of waiting on you guys. Dalton said Lando's mustache alone humbled Han Solo. He said, given enough mushrooms, any of you guys would meet Yoda in the Tennessee woods there. Yeah, I don't think we need mushrooms. There's some kind of critter out there. I don't know what it is.
I got 5 raccoons up my front yard to keep raiding my trash, so if that's Yoda,
Yeah, I saw
I ain't
Awesome Bear
impressed.
Day.
My daughter was spending that with her friend, and the first day of school, they were getting up to go to school, and a raccoon or fox or something stole one of her shoes off the porch. So I had to take her shoes and meet her with shoes so she could go to school. Stole her and her friend's little brother's shoe, one of each. And
Hopefully, was there one left and one right, or were they not being killed and still 2 left?
I don't know. But, they'd had that trouble up there before, so they had to start storing.
So
their shoes on the inside.
the raccoons are amassing clothing so they can do that thing where they stack together and come as a man to come.
You're gonna look outside one day, there's gonna be a trench coat with like one shoe of each thing, and somebody get inside your mailbox.
A team
Or
of
no,
raccoons.
they're going to come pretend to be the trash man so they can say you're not like, hey, get out of the trash. It's logic. Go with it.
I've seen a bunch of bears lately. And deer. Seems like every time it rains lately,
There's a lot of deer lately.
coming out.
Tons of deer.
I've seen a lot of my place.
We had one that came around here and got in the trash a bunch several years ago, and I called the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency to ask them, like, what am I supposed to do here? What are my options legally? Like, do you guys want to come get the bear? Because he's frequenting the area every night. He's coming and getting people's trash. It's like, is that something y'all do? Like, no, we don't do that. He's like, you got a shotgun? I was like, well, they said, I'll just put you some birdshot in there and shoot him in the butt. And if he don't run away, have you a buckshot ready. I was like, okay, well,
It's like,
that's one way to handle it. But this bear was, he's getting in the trash, and we've got children in this neighborhood, and you can't have a bear getting comfortable coming around an area where children are, and everybody's got dogs. So I was ready to take care of business, but my neighbor ended up shooting at him, and he disappeared after that, and he didn't, no dead bear around, but he never came back after that. So we hadn't had any around here lately, other than in the road. I've seen a few.
I've seen a bunch of deer, but not bear this year. I was pruning my very small, humble garden next to my house, and I was picking off little bean bugs and squishing little cabbage worms, because instead of using chemicals, I know that sounds cruel to like go through one by one and kill every insect by hand, but it's the same thing. And I'm not dumping chemicals all over.
Yeah, it's that tender loving touch.
Feels mean when you're just going through and squishing one bug at a time, but I do it in the mornings. And it all of a sudden occurred to me that all those bean bugs would probably wish that I wasn't there. They'd probably be like, really wish that human kept squishing the shit out of us, kills half of us every morning. We got to start from scratch.
Yeah.
What if we did that? What if this is like a garden and we killed the gardener and now things are shitty because, I don't know. Look up to Star Wars. I don't know, my brain got real off on that.
all right, Tamrick Nietzsche over here.
Yeah. There's a gardener, baby, I'm telling you. His legend was right.
Tim versus everyone says, I'll take Yoda some shrooms. I'm a good guest.
Oh, that's me. I'm trying to communicate with Dalton there. It's not true. I have none, so.
Dalton says black bear here caused similar problems around here, getting in garbage and pissing off dogs.
Well, he's in Pennsylvania. He's basically the same climate we got, so I bet he's got hella bears up there, really.
Yeah. Hella bears. Yeah, the Appalachians go, they got a very similar climate most of the way up. They even have hot summers up there. A lot of people don't realize, the Northeast, even all the way up to Maine, they'll have 95 degrees and stuff just like we do. They just start getting cool a lot sooner. But yeah, there's there's a tie-in to Star Wars on your garden analogy, because I'm thinking about the whole idea of I've lost it now. But anyway, there's a lot of tie-ins to real life from Star Wars, and I think you can learn a lot of lessons that actually apply to real life from it. Even though George Lucas was young when he was making these original films, I think he understood a lot of the storytelling that we were talking about before, that goes way back even to, Greek mythology, and a lot of the even back to the Bible. A lot of that it can be seen in Star Wars.
Is it Kurosawa? Is that the director he based him off of? Am I getting that wrong? Am I making
Kurosawa did the the Seven Samurai, didn't he? Akira Kurosawa.
I'm pretty sure, but I'm sure
Yeah.
George Lucas was very, very influenced by the fighting scenes from those samurai.
Oh yeah, I can see that.
Which he openly admits. It's not like he hid his influences or something.
Yeah.
But, that was his biggest influence, I guess, for probably the lightsabers and stuff. Was probably.
Well, the Seven Samurai was what inspired the film The Magnificent Seven. There's been a couple different iterations of it, and you can definitely see kind of like you said, the fighting influence in it, and the samurai influence, and the Jedi are a lot like samurai in their code and the kind of the way the order works. They're the guard of the nobility, basically they're the knights, I guess, of the Republic. There's even a game called Knights of the Old Republic that I've heard is really good. It's a role-playing game, but I never played it.
Yeah,
Played it halfway through.
there's the original Knights of the Old Republic game, and then there's a MMORPG, The Old Republic. Yeah.
Even though
I don't think
Knights of the Old Republic is great.
Which one was Xbox?
It's phenomenal.
What?
Which one was Xbox?
The original Xbox was Knights of the Old Republic.
That's when I had, and then halfway through
Because it was
the
on
game,
that
it
PC.
did the fried thing, and I was like, well, I'm not doing all that over again. I'll just jump to the next. I'll just jump to the next system.
Which they are remaking it pretty much for, I know, these next gen consoles.
I like that idea, like how they're doing that with new games, where they'll just essentially keep the game and just make the graphics better.
I just played today.
Yeah,
I was
Mass
playing
Effect
Tony
did
Hawk.
that.
Did they?
Yeah, I downloaded Mass Effect. I've had the trilogy the Mass Effect Andromeda. I had it, and then the trilogy too.
I
And
played through that one.
I haven't played it yet, but
It's okay. It's not as good as the first three, but it's still pretty fun. It's a little different with the combat system and everything.
I played Dragon Age Origin, which came out by the same. It was made by the same company
BioWare.
right at the same time, and it feels like
Dragon Age Origin was, I didn't really, but it was like, that other one's great.
I liked it.
Compared to- I didn't.
Or no, the Inquisition maybe was that the one.
Inquisition was a lot better because Dragon Age Origin was almost like really it was real linear and turn based. Like Inquisition was a lot
I
better.
can't remember which one it was which one was PS4.
Oh, that'd have been
PS3.
Inquisition because
Okay, that's
PS3
what I
was
played.
Origins.
Yeah, I didn't play Origin. I started Origin and it was okay, but Inquisition was very similar to Mass Effect because I got both of them at the same time, and kind of the combat where you could set strategies for your other characters and move around and have them go on autopilot. It's kind of reminiscent of the Final Fantasy. What was it? Final Fantasy 12 that really had that combat system where you could set them on autopilot with their commands and then take control of any character at any time. So I was a big fan of that. But I think Mass Effect Andromeda was kind of like basically the action shooting version of kind of that kind of combat system. Dalton says, "Hey, yeah, we got the same heat, but it doesn't last as long. Thank God." Yeah. Yeah. So I think when we look at what was some of the Greek mythology that you were telling me about a little earlier, or so some of the origin stories of Star Wars there that we were getting into, Jonathan?
Well, I know Lucas used the hero's journey as a template for movies, but beyond that, I'm not.
Oh, okay.
familiar with, like the breakdown of, the actual stories.
Okay. Well, the hero's journey is one you can all relate to. I mean, you see it in movies over and over again. Almost any of your movie where a guy's going up against a seemingly unsurmountable force and then somehow finds a way to make it through it. That's the hero's journey. And we talked about some of those other archetypes. And then a couple weeks ago, we talked about, like, I don't know if you saw this one or not, Jonathan. We were talking on an episode, like, how does these urban legends of I noticed this in the late 90s. There's the urban legend of the guy, the local celebrity with the gerbil in his butt going to the emergency room. I noticed that in the late 90s, like when I'd go meet places from people from all over the country. I mean, the internet was around then, but I mean,
Everybody know about it.
yeah. So, but it wasn't like. So, how did these stories get passed around? Is it something inside of us that
Hive
inherently knows this story? That's a hive
All
mind.
perverted hive mind. We all had the same thing. Or some kid. Every city had one kid go, "The weatherman has gerbil," and went to school and just told it. That's what happened.
Yeah, and like there was a episode in South Park about gerbils.
Yeah. Mr. Lemminwinks. That was hilarious. Then there was also the story of everybody heard that Marilyn Manson had one of his ribs removed so he could go down on himself. Man, that one made its way all the way around the country, and it's like in popular culture now. Like I've even seen it on things. But how did that story get started?
The hamster was on John Boy and Billy.
Was it?
And, they called it the Armageddon story because there was some paper that they read a thing out of where, I'm sorry, y'all, this is nasty. Hamster got lost because apparently they had a string on it or something, I don't know, and it went up there. And allegedly somebody decided they were going to try to see what's going on and tried to use a match or something.
Oh,
I don't know what happened.
I've heard
the
that.
guy ended up blowing the hamster out of his butt and like killing the hamster with fire.
pocket of
He ended up hurting him. Like, yeah, the guy ended up like burning his rectum up. Like
a pocket of intestinal gas.
yeah, essentially caught his asshole on fire, and a little bit of his butthole. So he ended up in the hospital. So maybe that's the origin story.
That is a jam-packed story.
There you go. So maybe that's the origin story of the hamster. Everybody heard that one and subtracted the fireball.
But where did that story come from? Where did you first see that?
John Boy and Billy.
John Boy and Billy?
Heard it on John Boy and
Was
Billy.
that back in the day?
That was back when I was in elementary school.
Okay,
Yeah,
because they started in what, the mid '90s or something like that. They feel like they've been around like our whole lives, but I think they started when we were.
this was like school bus days. I was in elementary school at the time. I don't know why in the world the school bus driver was playing a fiery hamster getting shot out of a gay guy's ass for us to listen to like 5:30 in the morning, but that's where I heard it.
Maybe that's where that story came from. Because I do seem to remember hearing that version of it too. But this one, you know, we always heard about the local weatherman, and it was a little bit different. But everybody always had an aunt who was there when he checked in, you know, and then it's the same one. I've heard it from people out of town when I've been in other places. They're like, "Oh no, it really happened. My aunt was working at the ER that night and checked him in or something." And I've heard that from people around here, and and I don't know where that gets around like that, but because it was before the internet, so I think they were right, like you said, Tim. It's the hive mind.
Every kid, every group of people had one kid go, hamsters.
Resistance is futile. Hamsters.
That's really the thing that made me think of that story was, if I'm not mistaken, they named the hamster Roberts after the NASCAR driver, Fireball Roberts. Is that the right name, Fireball Roberts? You know what I'm talking about, don't you? Back in the day, NASCAR drivers, like there was a guy that would keep extra cans of gasoline in his car so he wouldn't have to pit. And he put a gas thing in his car, and he would just fill his car up as he went, but he wrecked and obviously blew up because it was...
Wrecked him, damn near killed him.
That was old school NASCAR. When you could die in a ball of fire.
In your rectum. When he wrecked him. Sean said, when I was in high school, there was a story that Rod Stewart had a large quantity of speed pumped from his stomach. I wouldn't be... Oh. Yeah, I heard that one too. Yeah, not speed though. Probably semen. I've heard that one too.
Was Maggie a boy?
Wake up, Maggie.
Quit kicking me in the head with your dick.
I had a way to bring it back to Star Wars, but you made me forget.
Well, I was going to ask a question about the Star Wars. In the new ones,
Lightsaber thoughts.
I am a hater. I'm sorry. I just do hate on things. I think it's fair that you hate on things. I don't like the newer ones. But one of the things I don't like about it, I feel like in the new ones, when I say feel, I mean no, they're trying to imply that the Jedi are keeping the Force to themselves. And at one point, when they get down on the planet with all the gambling and stuff, the little girl walks in and uses the Force to get the broom, like it was no problem.
Yeah.
It's like, come on.
Yeah.
If it was that easy just to do it.
Luke had to go to the Dagobah and
But little kids,
train in the
this little
swamp.
peasant kid can just get its broom right off the wall with no training. It's like,
Right, yeah.
I don't know what's
And
going
that
on.
didn't tie in
To anything.
It was just like a loose end in that movie.
And there were so many unresolved storylines.
Yeah.
Well, the whole point of that one, I don't remember what movie was it that had, I can't remember which one it was. It was essentially a movie that shouldn't even existed because, like, they were trying to, like, stall while this thing was getting away from these things and they were doing, like, unnecessary, I don't know.
Where they were letting all those
the movie didn't
critters
even
out.
need to exist.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it was a cool thing when she turned the thing around and used hyperdrive to cut all the ships in half. But a lot of people in the universe seem to think that was not likely, that shouldn't happen because there's a failsafe and so in there. So,
Right. Yeah. When they sneak on the First Order ship and they go and to steal, what was it? I can't remember. But yeah, it was like a failed mission. You know. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, well, why even? It's just bad writing.
Yeah, I think that's my biggest problem. I think people think that the woke stuff is what ruins the new stuff, and I really don't think it is. I really think it's just shit writing and bad character directing and bad actors.
Well,
Because, man, there's been all that lefty stuff's been in there since the 70s.
Yeah.
We've been indoctrinated for our whole lives, and we just didn't mind it because the stuff was good.
Yeah, if you go back to, I always think of Dazed and Confused, and I think of how we look at. You remember how she talks about the all that when you're enjoying all that 4th of July brouhaha. Remember this, you know, that why this country started because a bunch of angry old white men didn't want to pay their taxes. We all love that movie, and you know that, but that kind of implanted that view in us. I think growing up for a while that's all it was, and that, you know, kind of that stuff has been around for a while is my point, and we didn't even really realize it until kind of we got older and people started pointing it out. But yeah, it has. Hollywood's always been kind of liberal. But, you know, you go back into the old days of Hollywood, though, Hollywood had I guess it probably up until the 50s and 60s, they had this contract that you couldn't show, like, women smoking and things like this, and like you couldn't have adultery and things like this in it. It was all these different things that were, it had to be done in a certain way to not show too much depravity, and so it really limited filmmakers. And
Hitchcock wasn't even allowed to show her dying in Psycho.
Yeah,
they had to imply it by going down the blood and that, and the censors almost cut that scene out.
Yeah. So there, I mean, that makes sense that Hollywood would be kind of liberal because they're always trying to push that boundary.
Psycho,
for creativity.
To prove your point, how dumb we were back then. Psycho is the first movie that features a flushing toilet because it's considered gross.
Oh, never noticed. Never noticed.
I can't think of too many movies that have a flushing toilet.
No, other than as a
down the
gag.
pops since then.
It's all going down to two. The shitter. I like watching everybody do the little quick Matrix catch up.
Yeah, it's funny. The Hays Code. Thank you, Sean. Yeah, so that was like basically, it was like putting a lot of Christian values and a lot of America's values at the time that were kind of mainstream onto Hollywood and forcing them to comply with it. And they had like a union and stuff that they had to join to be part of it. And part of that was to follow the Hays Code. And so as Hollywood was kind of suppressed at the time, they're wanting to tell, you know, more and more, you know, it's just like anybody. If with a fledgling industry, it's a lot like a fledgling person. You try to teach a teenager that, you know, to suppress what they're doing and thinking, a lot of times they'll rebel that much harder. And I think that's kind of what Hollywood did in the 60s and 70s. And I don't know, we had a golden age of Hollywood, I feel like, in the 80s, but maybe that's just because that's when I was a child. And
right, we're tied to it with nostalgia.
Exactly.
So
I think nostalgia is how we get controlled the most.
it really is, yeah.
That's it. Everything you like is like a little carrot, like
And we saw
too much.
we saw a resurgence of that nostalgia porn, almost to the point of like absurdity, kind of with and stuff like Stranger Things. If you look at like the third episode, they just like, look at this never-ending story. Here's, you know, the Ghostbusters. Like, I don't know, they just really threw a lot of that stuff in their face. But you know, one thing I noticed that they didn't put in there, those kids were never playing Nintendo in any of them. Like in real life, in 1986, those kids would have been playing Nintendo, guaranteed.
Yeah.
But they probably couldn't have the license for it or whatever.
Maybe you just haven't got around to it yet.
I don't think of any movies that did feature Nintendo.
Well, Nintendo came out in '85, and see,
yeah,
85 was
got Nintendo commercial pretty much.
Was when it came out, and that was
Power Glove.
you know, they Stranger Things season 3 and 4 was 85 and 86, so they
Did
definitely
they have any Atari references?
No, they show a couple arcade games. They have that Sword and Sorcery, or no, that was Nintendo. I can't remember. It's like a cartoon where you're playing a knight, and they showed that in there.
Ghouls and Goblins or Ghosts and Goblins, is that right?
I can't remember what it was.
Is it Ghosts and Goblins?
No, it was a different one. I can't remember what it was. It was one of those that's like, you know, now they have those games that like play out a movie and it's basically interactive, and every now and then you'll have to push a button to make it do something.
Dragon's Lair?
Yeah, Dragon's Lair. That's what it was.
That's a hard game.
Yeah, that was that. I thought that game was newer than that though.
In the arcade.
Yeah, it was in the arcade.
I remember it being in the
80s.
arcade when I was a real young kid at Dollywood, because we'd all be swarmed around. A guy had that one button trying to hit the right thing at the right time, getting mad.
Sean said the Hays Code was from 34 to 68. Yeah, that sounds right. Thank you for telling us there. They had to be more creative to tell a story, and really I like some of those old movies, man. I really like the and television shows like the Twilight Zones and the Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Those are great. Dalton says Rambo First Blood will turn 40 here soon. Yep, that's kind of crazy to think about. It's not 40. Actually, it seems like it should be 40. I guess Rambo, the first one, was 83, though, I think.
I had a crazy, that's one of the crazy, well, it's not even a trilogy now, but we'll use the first three and say that. Ain't that the craziest trilogy arc ever? Where it literally goes about a dude who's just trying to be by himself with PTSD and to like basically Duke Nukem over like in the next movie he's just like they're breaking out this super soldier. thought he was a guy with a Harley.
Yeah, and that's like a good example of kind of the liberalism in Hollywood. You know, that was the good old boys network. You know, this poor guy's come back from Vietnam where he's got off to fight for his country, and it's got the anti-war theme, and it's kind of got the liberty theme and the freedom to just be left alone, and that was what liberalism kind of meant then, and it's kind of gone morphed into something all different altogether nowadays. But yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Dalton. Rambo: First Blood was definitely a classic, and
40 on October 22nd is when it turns it.
yeah, and I always liked that one the best. I remember when we were kids, everybody was big into Rambo 2 and 3 because those had a lot more action and stuff in them.
Explosion.
Yeah.
How many cool guns can we give him?
Yeah,
They even had a toy line, which is kind of rare for an R-rated movie.
yeah.
The first one was the third one was so popular that when I bought the Sega Master System game for Rambo 2, they used an image from the third one to promote
They
it.
did, yeah.
So that's how popular the third one was.
Well,
There's Contra too, which is like a blatant
yeah.
rip-off.
Yeah,
it's like you have John Rambo, Arnold Schwarzenegger, and a Xenomorph
Yeah.
all on this cover.
Did you know in, I think it was Europe, they didn't use Contra, they made it robots because they thought people killing each other was too violent for them.
yeah.
Like, so if you get the European version of it, it's robots fighting each other, but it's still the same game. It's like Robot R or something.
Everybody remembers the Contra code, right? Up,
Up,
down, left, right, BA, start.
Wait,
or select start if
yeah.
you got two players. Yeah.
Konami code.
Yeah,
It works on like every Konami game. They throw it, even like Metal Gear and the Metal Gear Solid games. You can type
really?
in the Konami code, and it does not much, but it'll do stuff in it. Yeah.
No, I tried it on Super C, and it didn't work on there. But it's got a different one. It's got some kind of code it's different. But maybe Konami code did something, but it wasn't 30 lives or 30 continues or whatever it was on.
It's more honorary and newer.
Yeah. Konami. Let's see. I wonder if it's in. Who makes Castlevania?
Castlevania 4 was made by Konami.
That's what I was thinking. I wonder if it's in Super Castlevania 4. If you use it in there.
What, the up down? I don't remember. I do know that Castlevania 4 had like that cheat menu where if you access so many things, it actually give you a thing you go through and turn a few things on and off. Castlevania 4, I think, is the best Castlevania game as far as like.
Dude, you can whip in any direction. That's.
I mean, I know a lot of people would probably argue that Symphony of the Night would be the best one, but I don't consider that one to be a Castlevania game.
Oh, I love Symphony of the
I
Night.
don't count it. It's a Dracula game.
Well, yeah, you are playing
You don't have a whip.
Alucard instead of only the beginning you're playing. What about Ronda of Blood? It's
I thought that one was a good one, but I didn't like that. Well, they went back to the you could
only whip
couldn't do
forward
the whip thing.
with
It went
it,
back
yeah.
to it went to the traditional one. It did have better graphics than
What about Castlevania 64?
probably the worst one. Probably the worst, actually.
I just wanted to throw that in there.
And it's just because the 3D thing wasn't called up. It was like growing pains. It's like,
Yeah, some of those games were painful.
yeah.
There's like a Donkey Kong Country game.
Donkey Kong's a lot worse looking than I thought it was when I went back and played it on the Super Nintendo. Because I remember I played it on Super Nintendo. I was like, man, this is the best graphics ever. And you go back and look at it and you're like, I can barely see this.
Donkey Kong?
Yeah.
I thought it looks really good.
Yeah, it did.
And Killer Instinct at the same time kind of had that same kind of graphic style as Donkey Kong, and I thought it looked really good. But then the N64, they did one on it, didn't they? Or was it PlayStation? No, it was N64. Yeah, and it was kind of garbage looking.
Yeah.
I remember I went back as an adult and I went back through and I played Parasite Eve because I was like, I wanted to understand it more with an adult mind.
Yeah.
And it took me 20 minutes to get out of the opening scene because I couldn't find the damn
see the
door.
background.
Because I'm like, I can't see what anything is. It all blends together. So I had to do the thing where you run against the wall and press X. And I finally found what I needed to do.
That was a pretty good game.
GoldenEye,
Oh yeah.
man.
Yep. That was the party game back in the day. That, and we would have like 4-man GoldenEye and 4-man Raw wrestling on N64. That was super fun.
Yeah, it had 4 people on my 13-inch TV.
Yeah.
Everybody sitting there doing this, we got their one little square.
Yeah.
That was one of the
Large
funniest ones I ever had. We took that game to a church, to an all-nighter.
We always did that
And they
too.
put it up on the big praise and worship screen, And we were sitting there playing. We told him it's going to be Mario. We were like, oh yeah, it's going to be like 7-foot tall Mario. We didn't tell him we had GoldenEye. And of course, the youth pastor, somebody else walks in at like 4 a.m. that morning just to check on us. We're all in the fellowship hall with the praise and work. And for some reason, we all got in our hankering that we're all going to choose odd job and grenades only. So it's just a bunch of odd jobs throwing grenades at each other. And we turned around the pastor sitting there looking like, what is going on in my church?
Well, hell, I remember we actually would play Metal Gear Solid on the yeah, we come in there, it's like, yeah, we're playing Metal Gear.
Man, that's such a good game. I went ahead and bought the Metal Gear Solid, the PS1 original. They put it on PS3. You can still get it through the store there. Can't get it on PS4, but I had to get it on PS3. And man, that was such a good game. So revolutionary at the time. Like the thing with Psycho Mantis and the controller, and how you had to put it in the other side so you couldn't read your own. Yeah, it's like so many innovative things, and the whole series has been really good. But back, one of the first Star Wars games was I know they had some on regular Nintendo, but the Super Star Wars,
hard as crap.
Yeah,
all those Super Star Wars games.
but they were really good if you could get the hang of them.
Yeah.
They had like lots of different varying gameplay and lots of different levels and scenes from the movies, and they followed the story well. And I mean, of course, they had Luke fighting a lot of little critters and stuff that he never actually fought, but got to do something to keep the game interesting.
Like how Rambo for the NES was him just killing spiders and snakes the whole time with a knife.
Like Predator for the NES, he's fighting all kinds of different snakes and spiders and stuff, and like hardly any of it you're actually fighting the Predator. But then play Star Wars Battlefront for PS4 and Battlefront 2. I thought those were a lot of fun.
Yeah, they're good. I think the whole LucasArts line before, it turned in, well, I guess dissolved, and now it's like EA doing most of the games.
One of my favorites was what was it? Republic Commando or whatever it was.
I never played that.
It was the first person one, and you're actually you're playing clones.
Yeah, it had a good storyline.
I loved it because when you got them, what was it? Like some of the enemies that were like the bugs, and whenever you did, they would like splatter blood goop all over your visors, and they had a thing that would clean the visors off.
Yeah, that was cool.
That was like a cool mechanic. Okay, for Star Wars games, what was the shitty stage fighter one?
Oh, yeah.
That was just so
I can't remember what it's called.
ungodly hard. It's like you couldn't do anything on it.
Was it an arcade style fighting game?
Yeah, it was a.
It's kind of like
It was a stage
fighter, but
okay.
Star Wars, wasn't it?
I remember.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of what it was though. I remember.
Yeah, like PlayStation 1.
Yeah, it was on PlayStation 1. It was. God, it was rough because it's like, hey, you're like, I'm going to choose Boba Fett and have weapons, and then you had to put in these ungodly combos to get him to do anything, and you're like, I can't do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't play them that much. It just didn't feel right.
I rented it a couple times, and it was just because I was like, Star Wars, and it looked all right, and then it's just
bad
like,
last time.
you're like, oh.
I liked Battlefront a lot on PS4, but they changed you'd get a strategy that would work, and then they would nerf your guns and make them less effective.
Make them weaker.
Yeah, why not just make something else stronger to counter it there rather than I don't know. They kept changing it, so it's like anytime you play it, something would be
Wookiees, or the crossbow.
Yeah,
Boltcasters.
Boltcaster.
Yeah, the Boltcaster. It was way overpowered, and then they made it so weak that it was worth
not even worth using. Yeah, that was what really killed me, because everybody would do that. They would jump pack and then shoot down with the bowcaster, and it had 3 explosions, and it'd just blow you up no matter what if they did it right. But my thing was, you did have ways to avoid that too. You could use it, you could get annoying getting killed by somebody that way over and over again, but you had counters for it, and if they'd have just let it play, people would have figured out how to counter it. It would have become a thing, and they wouldn't have to.
Yeah.
But anyway, they kept constantly changing it to make it kind of more even, to where it's pretty much everything was even on it, and it wasn't much advantage to picking one thing or another. It was, Dalton says on PS2, Boba Fett Bounty Hunter was fun, and the Pod Racer. Obviously, the Star Wars Battlefront on Battlefront 2 on PS2. Yeah, that one was good.
That one.
Yeah, the pod racing game on the 64.
Yeah,
that was fun.
That was fun.
They did release that with when you got Battlefront, it came with it on the digital copy of that, and Super Star
it's not
Wars.
The same though.
Yeah,
I like the N64 version because of the controls, but I had it for PC as well, and but I just always preferred it on the 64.
Well, the controller's pretty intuitive on it. And
Yeah.
it didn't. Yeah, you're right. It didn't really feel right the same on
I think
On
that's
the
what made
PlayStation 4.
GoldenEye so special as well, because that controller just made for it, and the whole strafing thing with those little C buttons. You know, just
Yeah, it was the first time we had anything like that.
yeah, that was a game changer.
And we had just had what you call it, Doom had been out for a while, and they already had the WASD kind of picking up and going into becoming more standardized for PC gaming. But I was playing the other day. They had Daggerfall for free on on Steam, and it had been a long time since I played that. It's Elder Scrolls Part 2. And I forgot how awful the controls were to get used to. When you're used to modern PC gaming controls, they were not the same.
I watched try to play Morrowind now, and you'll about pull your face off.
I tried recently. Yeah,
It's
terrible.
so hard to play Morrowind.
I have seen a video where people have gone through, like modders have done like Daggerfall and Morrowind. And the people that have remodded Morrowind, they're like, this game actually looks pretty dang good for.
That's the only one I've ever played. I played it when it was already old, and people had already modded it and made it, better graphics and better controls. So I don't.
The biggest problem with Morrowind is
never
like
played
they
the original
literally made every single action of you need to be upgradable. So if you wanted to be able to jump, you had to jump a million times as you just had to jump everywhere.
Jump the whole game.
I did kind of like that. Though.
Well, see, I played
it.
as-
You could actually jump higher.
Well, I would do that and play as a Khajiit and make my Khajiit a thief who could jump and go jump over balconies and stuff like that, and kind of sneak and jump and acrobatics. And
I remember
you could make some neat characters.
I got stuck once, and I was like, where I got stuck at, I fell down, and I was like, I couldn't ever get out. My save was, so I was like, I went in the command console and added to my jump thing, and I added too much. I jumped into the top of the cave and killed myself. I was like, okay, let's reload the save and not jack it that high.
Well, let's see here. Dalton, we missed the chat, said both his grandfathers were in the Vietnam War, which makes me love the Rambo movies even more. Yeah, and I think a lot of people can relate to those. The Vietnam vets are getting up there in age now. A lot of them are 70, even 80 years old. So it's kind of crazy, because when I was a kid, Vietnam was just like it had just happened. It's still pretty fresh in everybody's memories. And World War II was, 40 years, not even that long ago, 30 to 40 years before. And now it's like Vietnam was how long ago now? I mean, when was it? It ended in the early 70s, so that was just 50 years since Vietnam now. It's kind of crazy how time's passed. But, well, I think we've had some good discussion about Star Wars and some adjacent topics. I hope no too many people don't get angry and comment and hate on us in the comments for talking about something else. We had a couple people in some of the older videos, the feral people videos, are like, oh, they only talked about feral people for like 15 minutes, and I went back because I saw that comment. I had to go back and look. And I was like, we talked about it for like an hour, but we had a conversation on other stuff for like 15 minutes.
No.
It's like, it's a talk show, man. This is not a documentary.
I think one of the issues you run into is where your format is YouTube.
Yeah.
And YouTube, I'd probably say, out of my ass, 75% of the videos on YouTube are pre-made videos where you watch it and it's an instructional sort of how to make a cake. And so whoever clicked that was wanting probably thought you was going to sit there, feral people of Appalachia have been around, so that's probably what they were expecting.
And that's what I put in the comments. Like, there's plenty of stuff out there if you want to watch, like Donnie Laws or Mr. Ballin or even David Pilatus. There's lots of people talking about feral people from an informational point of view and kind of give you documented cases and things like that. But that's not what we're here to do. We're here to discuss the stuff and kind of have, like I said, it's going to be a hangout. More feral people videos. Sean, I don't know much more about feral people. I haven't picked up much more information on it. Yeah. Now we were going to talk about doing that. We were going to do
in the bush and go squatching.
Yeah, we're not going to be able to do it live, but we will do some. Maybe we need to do it before it gets too cold. We need to go do. Y'all want to go hike the Cross Mountain Trail or something and hike down the ridge of Iron Mountain, and it'd be a 2-day hike. Probably, I think it's about 17 miles. You can take it pretty leisurely and do it in 2 days. I think that'd be fun if you guys wanted to do that, or we could just do part of it. And
we can go hunt some feral people.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Maybe like
that's what I'm saying. We go across the Iron Mountain, see if we can catch any.
I'm down for catching. I'm not down for the hiking part, because But I'm down.
Well, you're gonna have to hike to catch them. Dude, I did that trail one night and one time, and I got really sick. I was meeting up with some buddies of mine, and we were gonna go hike the Cross Mountain Trail, and you go right down the spine of the Iron Mountain. And I was really looking forward to it, and I started feeling like I was under the weather about the morning that I was supposed to leave, and I was like, I don't know if I should go or not. I feel like I might be getting sick. And then so we went. I said, I've already arranged for everything, so I went ahead and went. Started feeling worse and worse as time went on. And that night, I'd like drank a half a bottle of whiskey, and I ate a bunch of these magic apples that were under this great big apple tree that we found in the middle of a field there. And I was like, I cured myself over the next day just walking, hiking, and eating these apples. And it
Did you
made
poop
me.
a lot?
No, I didn't. I got
Yeah.
no. I got
You pooped the virus out.
no. I had to blow my nose a lot, but it was like by the time I got. I mean, I was really sick there for the next day, but then by the time I got home, I was good to go. But yeah, it was pretty wild finding this great big old apple tree.
You did a video game side quest.
Yeah. Well, it's like there was we were hiking, and all of a sudden we were in the middle of the mountain. I mean, far from any road. And then you could see there was an old rut where there had been a road, God knows how long ago. So I think we were on where there used to be an old homestead or something, and somebody had planted an apple tree there, and it was a really old apple, and it had some kind of crazy green apples that were really good. My grandfather says the Stonemen of Vietnam are real. Him and his fellow troops were harassed by them. I've never heard of the Stonemen of Vietnam. I wonder if the stone people in the Game of Thrones there was based on that.
We will go squatching.
Little rock chucking people. No, throwing. Okay. No, I didn't hear about them, but we've definitely hear a lot about Sasquatch throwing rocks at people, or people thinking it's Sasquatch throwing rocks at them.
God, why even have swap if it's just? I mean, like I would think at some point swap would figure out that I just can't type.
Dude, has swaps used to be good?
It sends the most banana. Like right now, I tried to put Stonemen of Vietnam. I swear to God, it put stone ass hat and then put some word that I've never seen because it was in like a Yiddish or something.
I've been using Swap on Samsung phones for a long time, and it used to work perfectly. And like it's recently, it doesn't work as good.
I very rarely have ever used it.
I used to fly with it. Now it like if I try to type somewhere or try to swap somewhere, it'll say something like Stonegate. And like several swaps that I've done it, I'll swap it a million times, and it'll just. I can watch slow motion my finger go in it, and it does something totally crazy, and it used to not do that. I don't know, but yeah, I'm right there with you, Tim. But I guess we're going to call it a night, y'all. It's about 11:36, so we appreciate you joining us. If you're still with us, and if you're still with us and you haven't done it, like the video, share it around to somebody who might enjoy it. Invite them to join the conversation and subscribe to the channel. We'll be here every Sunday and Wednesday at 10 p.m. Wednesday nights we do news and discussion of local events, and Sundays we always pick a topic and kind of go on that for a little while. And we want to thank Johnathan for joining us again. And we'd like to have him back again. There's other stuff that we've talked about that he's interested in and knows about, so we'll probably have him back on some future episodes. And we'll probably at some point revisit Nibiru and that kind of stuff, maybe in a different context than we did before. So Johnathan would be a good person to have on for that too. So we're going to do, I'm going to work on a paranormal episode and do some ghost stuff.
When you talk about shadow beings and just all that creepy stuff.
Yep, I've had some experiences with those, but we'll save those for another night. And maybe we can get on into Skinwalker Ranch a little bit, because we've had some requests for that also. So, hey, I appreciate you joining us, and we will see you on Wednesday night when we get into the news and current events. Thanks a lot, folks. Hey, spill the tea. You are hella late, but that's all right. We're going to end the stream, and you can go back and start it from the beginning, and we'll see you on Wednesday night.